I want to read you something before we get into anything else, because this comment came in a few weeks ago and I genuinely haven't stopped thinking about it since. Someone wrote in and said, Bobby, I started watching your channel when I was making $35,000 a year and felt completely trapped. I just logged into my brokerage account this morning and I'm sitting at over $100,000 in investments. I didn't get a big raise, I didn't start a business, I just stopped believing the story I was telling myself about why this wasn't possible for someone like me. And I want you to really hear that, because that person didn't find a loophole. They didn't get lucky. They didn't have something you don't have. What they had was a year or two of making different decisions with the same income they already had. And the result was 6 figures in investments on a salary that most financial media doesn't even bother addressing because it's considered too modest to matter. That comment is the entire reason this video exists, because I think there are an enormous number of people watching right now who make somewhere around $40,000 a year and have quietly accepted the idea that $1 million is just not a realistic destination from where they're standing. And I want to spend the next 30 minutes or so completely dismantling that assumption with real math, real psychology, and a level of specificity that I think you've probably never seen applied to this income level before. My name's Bobby, and I spent the last several weeks building out a detailed compound interest simulation. I actually coded this in Python so I could run hundreds of different scenarios, specifically modeling what the wealth building journey looks like on a $40,000 annual salary at different savings rates, different time horizons, and I found the exact year where everything changes, the year where your investment portfolio starts growing faster than your salary. And I'm going to show you that number today, because every single time I show it to someone, it hits like a truck in the best possible way. If you're someone who looks at their paycheck and genuinely wonders whether any of this wealth building stuff applies to you, or whether it's all just advice for people who already make good money, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out, because the math, when you run it all the way to the end, tells a story that is so much more hopeful than the one most people at this income level are carrying around in their heads. Let me start by challenging the assumption that I think does more damage to more people at this income level than almost anything else, and that is the assumption that income is the primary variable in wealth building. That the reason some people end up wealthy and others don't is fundamentally about how much they earned, and therefore the correct strategy if you're at $40,000 is to focus all your energy on earning more first and then worry about building wealth once the income problem is solved. And look, I want to be careful here, because I'm not going to stand here and tell you that income doesn't matter, because of course it does. More money coming in gives you more to work with, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But here's the thing, and I've talked about this before in my Henry video, which stands for high earner, not rich yet. The relationship between income and wealth accumulation is far weaker than most people assume, and in some specific, measurable ways, a lower income actually creates psychological conditions that are more conducive to building real wealth than a high income does. And the data backs this up in a way that is genuinely surprising when you first see it. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics Consumer Expenditure Survey, households in the top income quintile, people earning $150,000 and above, save approximately 25 to 30% of their income, which sounds impressive, right? Until you realize that a person at $40,000 who is intentional and disciplined can achieve almost exactly that same savings rate, and sometimes higher. The high earner isn't saving a higher percentage of their income. They're spending a higher percentage on an inflated lifestyle. Bigger house, newer car, private school tuition, better vacations, nicer restaurants, more subscriptions, better everything. All of which feel completely justified because they worked hard and they earned it. And meanwhile, the $40,000 earner who has learned to live on what they have, who has developed the habit of questioning every purchase, who has the visceral, lived experience of knowing exactly where every dollar goes, that person has something the high earner is desperately trying to manufacture artificially through budgeting apps and financial coaches. They have what I'd call the scarcity mindset advantage. The discipline that the $40,000 earner develops out of necessity is the same discipline that determines whether wealth actually accumulates, regardless of income level. It is not a consolation prize. It is a genuine, transferable, compoundable financial skill, and the fact that your income forced you to develop it is one of the most underappreciated advantages in personal finance. Here's what most people don't realize about why high earners so often end up with less wealth than their income should produce. It's not that they're foolish or irresponsible. It's that lifestyle inflation is not primarily a discipline problem. It's a perception problem. When your income rises, your internal reference point for what counts as normal and reasonable rises with it almost automatically in ways that happen below the level of conscious decision-making. A $200 purchase feels significant and worth analyzing at $40,000 per year. At $150,000 per year, $200 doesn't even register as a decision, it's background noise. And that perceptual shift, multiplied across hundreds of micro-spending moments every month, is the mechanism that silently consumes the wealth that high incomes should be producing. The $40,000 earner doesn't have that problem because the perceptual threshold is low enough that most purchases still feel like decisions, and decisions are where wealth is actually built or lost. Now let's get into the actual math, because this is the part that I want you to carry with you after this video is over, and I want to be specific enough that these numbers feel real rather than theoretical.